Thank you for joining us today for our 2021 Track and Field Preseason webinar. My name is John Skees and I'm the Director of Media for TAPS. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, but first I've got some housekeeping items to address with you before we get started. So first things first, it would help us out to know who we were talking to this afternoon. So if you could please indicate your classification on the poll that I am launching now. You'll see that on your screen. While you're filling that in, I'll cover a few more things, and then by the time everybody's submitted that information, we will be ready to start the presentation. So second, this webinar is being recorded. You're going to receive an email with a link to that recording as soon as it's ready. That should be later this afternoon. It'll be to the same email address you used to register for this webinar. Third, if you have any questions, please use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface. We're going to try to answer those as we go through the presentation, but if we don't get to yours right away, there is a general Q&A at the end of the presentation. But if we run out of time, or if your question is just too specific to answer appropriately in this venue, please send us an email after the webinar, info@taps.biz, or call us at the office. Okay, looks like most of you have submitted. I'm going to close this poll. And I am joined today in the office by Brian Bunselmeyer, the TAPS Executive Director, Robert Huckabee, TAPS Associate Director and Director of Compliance, Steve Prudhomme, TAPS Associate Director, and also here with us is Will Dixon from the TAPS staff. He's helping us out behind the keyboard today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian to get us started.
Thank you, John, and welcome to this webinar for Track and Field. Thank you for joining us here this afternoon. This is our third webinar of the day, so if you've been on for the previous two, you may hear a lot of the same things coming at you. But again, we appreciate you joining us so that we can help prepare ourselves for the track and field season that's ahead, 2021. We gave 2020 a great shot. We were not able to do the district, the regional, and the state meets based on COVID. With the COVID metrics right now, we're going to work really hard to work through them, with them, and around them to get us to the opportunity for a state championship. So the goal for TAPS track and field in 2021 is fairly simple. That goal is to make it to the state championships and to crown state champions in all the divisions as we go forward. The purpose of this meeting is to provide you with as much information moving forward as we can to help you prepare for the upcoming season. There is that pre-district time, that district, regional, and then state time. So as we move forward, we hope that you can follow along with us. One of the biggest places that I can encourage you to go is the TAPS website, www.taps.biz. Will, if you can get it rocking and rolling, let's jump over to the internet. On the internet, www.taps.biz. Go to the TAPS website, click on athletics for us, Will. You're going to jump down after that loads up, go to spring sports, and we're going to click on track and field. It's all things track and field. On the red bar at the top, you're going to find the rules. We do follow the National Federation rules and TAPS rules. You'll find the honors, the all-state, the all-district, et cetera, that we're going to be receiving. Then you're going to have our districts. That has your district alignments. Meets will have both the TAPS meets and any invitational. So if you are hosting invitational meets as we go throughout this year, if you need folks to attend, please drop Kelly an email at info@taps.biz, info@taps.biz. We'll make sure we post those invitational meets on that tab. On the right-hand side in green, you see spring transfer deadline. That's the track and field blog. Every time we send out an email to track and field coaches, we will try to load it up there as well. So get back to the track and field page on www.taps.biz. Click on athletics, click on track and field, and drop on down. Championship information as we get closer will be on the big red tab, and that will get you there as well. And then we will also have a regional tab as we get closer to our regional meets. The basics. Well, let's jump down to the basics of track and field, and we're going to start with student eligibility. Robert, can you fill us in here a little bit on the student eligibility and how that applies to track and field for 2021?
You bet. Thank you, Brian. Welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining us today. All meets during the year. That's not just your district, regional, or state meets. Any meet you compete in, the TAPS rules apply. Those TAPS general eligibility rules, those are found in section 77 through 84. Those are our rules on no pass, no play. Those are our rules on full-time day students and all those normal eligibilities we have for all of our TAPS activities throughout the year. Please refer to those. If you have any questions, reach out to our office. We can always assist you with that. The no pass, no play rules, obviously TAPS has our minimum standards. Those are defined there in section 77. Your school will have your no pass, no play rules as well. So be sure to follow those and honor those throughout the season. Another category of students with regard to eligibility are those who may or may not be eligible for varsity competition, depending on their status. That would be international students, depending on their residency status. They may have to sit a year from varsity competition and only be eligible for junior varsity competition. And for our transfer students, for our spring sports, and track is one of our spring sports, if you have a transfer student that missed that January 19th deadline, a couple of weeks ago, if you missed that deadline, transferred after that date, you would not be eligible for varsity competition this spring in track and field. You could compete JV, but it would have to be clearly a JV meet or a clear JV division in a particular meet. Brian?
One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately this year, not real sure why it's picked up this year, but students not yet in high school. Section 85 of the TAPS bylaws is in place for this very thing. Basically, that's those kids that are in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They are quick, they're fast, they're able to jump or throw. They cannot participate with or against high school students. That includes both varsity and JV meets. So they might be the fastest little 7th grader in the state of Texas, but they can't compete against high school students in the JV or varsity meets. They might be a really great thrower in the 5th grade, and somehow, some way, they get that disc out there farther than your high school girls. They still cannot compete with or against high school students in varsity or JV meets. What does that mean? What that means is they could lose a year of eligibility down the road, and that's generally going to be their last year of eligibility. So as a senior, they may not be able to compete. And as a coach, if you knowingly put them in those meets as a student not yet in high school, you put them in a high school JV or varsity meet, you may lose your year of high school eligibility to coach. So neither one of those things are good. Losing your year to coach or they're using a year of high school are not good. Students not yet in high school may, of course, practice with the high school players throughout the year as they need, so they can go out there and work with them. You can work with them all in one big group. They just can't run in meets with the high school students. Robert, hit us with a little bit of rank 1 as it consistently goes through all of our activities, fine arts and athletics here in TAPS.
All right, rank 1 is our database for the second year now. All of your coaches and all of your students should be in rank 1. Let's start with coach eligibility. If you are a track coach, track assistant coach, any role similar to that at your school, that role needs to be selected in rank 1 for you. That's how we pull our list of emails. That's how we send out information. So if you are a track coach and you are not listed in that specific role, you may have 5, 10 other roles at the school. We understand that, but make sure you're selected as a track coach so you can get those emails, posts, and information that we send out. Your AD will get all of that information. They may be forwarding that to you now, but please ask them to put you in as a track coach so you can get that information. You'll also, once you're in, you will complete your annual coach acknowledgement of rules and your scope requirements that are all there available for you in rank 1. For your students, a very similar process. They will be in rank 1. They will complete, along with their parents, their annual student acknowledgement of rules. They will, in that place, fill out and upload their physical information. All those forms that are required for their eligibility are tracked and kept in rank 1 as well. When you create your track roster, you'll pull your students that are running track over into that roster. You'll notice when you pull them over in there, they will either be red or green. Red means they're missing something. There's a form or something in the system that's thrown up a red flag and said, hey, we're missing something here. Reach out to us if you have any questions about that. If they have completed everything, then they will be green. They will be good to go. Kelly and Rhonda are our 2 in the office that typically answer the phone. They're very good at navigating rank 1, and they can help you walk through that process. There are times when a student has done everything, they're red for some reason, there's some button somewhere that's been pushed wrong or accidentally, and they can help you walk through that and remedy those problems, but they need to be green. All of your track athletes need to be green before they compete in any interscholastic competition.
That's true for your coaches as well, whether they're varsity or sub-varsity, whether they're a throwers coach, a jumpers coach, a relay coach. Anyone that you have working track and field with your high school athletes needs to be in rank 1. Their contact information needs to be in there. They need to complete that coach acknowledgement of rules and complete the scope process for 2021. So coaches, regardless of whether you're the head track coach or whether you're an assistant in one of the disciplines, make sure that you're in rank 1. Also make sure you step out to your AD or your athletic secretary, however that may work, if you need additional rank 1 assistance. This is the year of COVID. We are continuing through. All of TAPS protocols are still in place. Robert, give us a little more information on the TAPS COVID protocols as you see them applying to track and field.
We have our general COVID protocols, and those have been in existence since the beginning of the school year. One of the most important is when we interact with each other in any type of competition. Obviously, if you're not at your own facility, if you are hosting a track meet at another facility, you will want to be sure to know their COVID requirements and restriction and guidelines and follow those. If you are hosting one at your own facility as a TAPS school, you'll need to follow your school protocols and the TAPS protocols as well. One of the most important is that general COVID protocol of affirmation, that self-screening of those COVID conditions that must be done by all coaches and all participants anytime we compete against each other in TAPS. So what that means is on the day of that competition, in this case on the day of a track meet, as track coach, you will be certifying that you, all your coaches, and all your participants do not have COVID, do not have the COVID symptoms, and have not recently had close contact with someone who does. Brian?
One of the things that continues to go on here, we're all coaches at heart. Even though we sit in the TAPS office, we know the desire for the young men and women that are in your care to go and compete, regardless of the sport or activity. It has become kind of alarming to me with the number of students that have been COVID positive the day after a TAPS event, or the day or week after. So, you know, this is not a time to push it. Robert, I think we've had that talk several times. This is a time, if they're showing symptoms, if they tell you, hey, I might have something or coming down with something, if you're not requiring a negative test before they get on the bus, make sure you pay attention to all those symptoms. Sorry to interrupt you, Robert. I'll let you continue on with those COVID protocols.
All right, looking at facility-specific rules, obviously you'll need to honor any requirements of your host facility if you're not at your particular stadium. So be sure you're aware of those. And if you are hosting a meet, be sure to communicate those to all those who are coming and attending your meet. Mask requirements. You should be wearing masks when you enter and exit any facility for a TAPS competition, and in all areas where people will interact or come in contact with each other and cannot socially distance. Masks are required for everyone other than participants who are actively involved in warming up or competing in events. Masks are allowed to be worn when competing in events, and that would be based on your individual school requirements. TAPS minimum standards do not require participants to wear a mask while they're warming up and actually participating in the competition, but you certainly can if you choose to, and if that's a part of your local school protocols. Let's jump to some track and field rules. Let's look specifically. TAPS track and field is governed by the TAPS rules and the NFHS rules. The TAPS rules are found in bylaws sections 186 and 187. When we were on that TAPS web page earlier, up on that top tab where you saw athletics, if you look over to the right, there's a tab called resources. If you hover over that tab, you'll go down 3 or 4 items and you'll see something called bylaws. If you click on that, it'll take you to a big Google Doc. Scroll down to sections 186 and 187. That's where you can find the TAPS track and field rules. Uniform's a big part of that. Obviously, read those rules with regard to uniform requirements. And another thing that applies to the world of track and field, you cannot run in any meets unattached. We get that question a few times a year at various parts of the season. You are interscholastic competition and your students are representing your school. They cannot run in a meet and run unattached. The NFHS rules govern our rules for track and field. Those can be found at nfhs.org. You can go there and order a current rule book if you don't have one. They also have a phone app. We all have it here in the office. You can download that phone app. It's about the same cost as the book. I think it's about $10. And that way you would have all those NFHS track and field rules handy with you with your phone at all times. There were some rule changes last year for 2020. There were no changes this year for 2021. There were about 4 spring sports that the NFHS did not have any rule changes for this year, in large part because we did not get to participate last year. There were no significant changes on board. But I do want to mention 3 that were out there last year. We talked about them this time last year, but because many of you did not get to compete in many or any meets at all, just a reminder, there was a change for the exchange zones in the 4x1 and the 4x2. That exchange zone is now 30 meters long. For all you experienced track coaches, you know you always had that 10-meter, what we called acceleration zone, and then you moved into the 20-meter exchange zone. That baton had to be exchanged in that 20-meter exchange zone. Now the exchange zone for the 4x1 and 4x2 is defined as that entire 30-meter length. So that's a change. It was in effect last year, but many of you probably didn't run into that. Another change, there was a change with regard to aiding a competitor. That is allowed if no advantage is gained. That's just a good sportsmanship rule. And then there is a new one that came about last year that you may not have seen or recognized or run across. You can no longer run backwards on the runway in the horizontal jumps and the pole vault. So in our world, that would be the long jump, the triple jump, and the pole vault. We have our runways, we have our approach area for those horizontal jumps, and then for the pole vault. Not even in warm-ups. That's a safety concern. That is a new rule. I know many athletes over the years would line up on the board and run backwards up the runway and get their mark. You need to come to those meets prepared to know approximately where your mark is, start from the appropriate area and run in the correct direction. So those are things from last year, just as a reminder. You'll run across those, and some people may not have remembered or been familiar with them from last year.
Robert, as you and I discussed, and as we discussed as we were leading into last year, the exchange zones that have been extended that whole 30 meters, to be honest with you, if you get disqualified for being out of this exchange zone, your opportunity to appeal is going to be very minimal. And I think the competitor no advantage gain. I mean, again, mainly in the distances, or I've perhaps seen it in the hurdles, whatever. The running backwards is not only a safety concern; it's a time concern. So everybody's going. It's just like in swim. You do your one-way starts, you do your one-way warm-ups. Everything goes a little quicker and a little faster. And to be honest with you, the jumps have been taking longer and longer and longer in the 25 years I've been at TAPS as we've done the warm-ups, et cetera. So make sure you pay attention to all those. One of the things that has come up, and I think is possibly because some of the way the UIL schools are running their meets, remember that running unattached is not allowed in interscholastic meets. So if it's a high school that is sponsoring that meet, if it's a school that's sponsoring that meet where other high schools are showing up, if they're wearing your colors, if you have and entering, they cannot run unattached. So that is a rule, been a rule on TAPS for a long time. It's not one that's going away this year because of COVID. So if they're representing your school, they're representing your school. We're going to drop down and quickly talk about the fair effort rule that does apply in TAPS. If you're new to TAPS or if you haven't been in track for a long time, the fair effort rule basically says once you qualify for a TAPS district, regional, or state meet, once things go final, you can't drop an event without, for lack of a better word, being penalized. You can't re-enter the meet after dropping. A lot of times what you see is you have a student that's in the 800 or one of those early events. You want to put them in the 4x4, so you drop them from their individual meet after they qualify. We will talk about the timelines for dropping and replacing students, but if you haven't read the fair effort rule, jump in the TAPS bylaws, go in there, read that fair effort rule so that you're very familiar with that. Make sure that as you get to the meet, if there's any questions, again, if you have a hurt athlete, obviously trying to protect them, but if they need to be scratched from an event, then they probably need to be scratched from all events. So fair effort rule will be in effect. It is still going to stay in effect in 2021. So just keep those ideas in mind. Invitational meet, as a reminder, TAPS does not have any requirement limiting you on the number of invitational meets you attend, nor do we limit the number of meets you can attend during a week. So during the week, that is school authority. That is your principal, your head of school, your athletic director, you as track coach determining how many invitational meets you wish to attend, whether it be in a season or in a week. So those are totally up to you. They may be harder to find right now. If you are hosting a meet, we're going to jump down one wheel. If you're hosting a meet, then make sure if you need additional teams, you may info@taps.biz. Email Kelly. She'll get them up on the website just as soon as you get it to us. Invitational meets, if you're hosting, those same COVID requirements that Robert talked about earlier are in place. So masks are required. All those masking requirements for when you're not socially distanced, when you're not actually warming up or participating, all those would apply when you're hosting. So we don't do away with those regardless of where you are. Whether your county says yes or no doesn't matter. If you're TAPS and you're hosting a track meet, an invitational high school meet, we need to follow those social distancing and COVID protocols. So you must follow all the TAPS protocols. Attending invitational meets, as always, it's up to you on how you wish to address your own students. We do have a couple of schools that are going to require their runners or throwers to wear masks when competing. You can do that. If you want your students to do that, you can do that. You cannot require students from other schools to do that. So attend the invitational meets you want, follow their protocols. Our protocols are in place all the time. So Steve, give a little pep talk here about what it means to be TAPS all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's all the time, everywhere. So our rules do extend throughout the year and into the summer. It's every month, every day is addressed and everywhere you are. So make sure that when you're going to the meets and where you are, that you're following the rules. And with COVID has not taken a break for us yet. So I guess we don't get to take a break either. So make sure you stick to those COVID protocols. And guys, we've been getting events done this year, and we want to continue to get events done. And our motivation for the spring is more so than anybody else. We want to make sure that y'all get this year in. So we're going to work together and get it done.
Again, our goal for this year for Track 2021 is to have those championship meets to crown our champions, both district, regional, and state. So we need your help to make that happen. On district meets for this year, if you're hosting the district meet on one of your classifications, please make sure you email us at info@taps.biz and give Kelly your meet information and your name as the district host or district president. So if you're hosting one of the district meets, please make sure you email us at info@taps.biz. District entries, we're going to give athletic.net one more chance as we've moved to rank 1 and away from Tapster. Athletic.net is a possibility. We will have an entry webinar. The date will be announced soon. Once you get that, save the date. Becky Blosser was going to come on. She takes care of all of our getting our meets ready for our timers, etc. So we want to make sure she has a chance to tell you to do what's right and how to do it. On the TAPS website, www.taps.biz, click on athletics, click on track and field. On there, you'll find your track codes. Those will be posted later today and updated. Make sure that your track code in athletic.net matches your track code in TAPS. So that's a key import. As we import, if those codes are wrong, we've got a little more difficulty than what we started with. Some of your kids may not be entered. So athletic.net, to a lot of you who have asked, that is a possibility. We will have that entry webinar announced soon. District meet, your formats for the meets may be 1 day or 2 day. You can include JV, not include. That's all determined by the district executive committee. So the district executive committee determines the dates, the entry deadlines, the meet dates, your weather makeup dates. You need to determine the location, who's going to host. You need to find your fees and awards up front. So that district executive committee, if you have not yet had your track district executive committee meeting, you need to have that. So go to www.taps.biz, click on athletics, click on track and field, look at that district alignment up there in that red bar, see who the schools are in your district and reach out and say, hey, have we thought about this? Do we know who's hosting and where are we headed? The district meets can be combined. We do have several cross divisions that are combining to save money on facilities and timers, etc. If you're looking to do that, we highly encourage that, as it does allow your runners a little bit more time. You don't have to have as many breaks. The more heats, the fewer breaks you have to take as a mandatory break. So format for district meets determined by the district executive committee. All district meets need to be certified by April 17th. We're jumping right to the regionals the next week. So you can go early, but you can't go late. So April 17th is the deadline for the track district certification. District conflicts, make sure that track is not conflicting with golf or tennis or anything else that's going on, whether it be music, etc. The track meet should be standalone and not make students choose. Officials, you should have at least one certified track official at the meet, serving as either your meet director, your meet referee, etc. I know a lot of times we think as coaches, we know enough about track to handle it and we'll get our little committee and we'll be ready to go. If so, make sure your district executive committee approves that format. Coaches can run events, but it's always handy to pay and have that extra money there for that certified track official to help you with the hard decisions. Your timer will work with TAPS, and our TAPS will create the meet file and distribute. The timer will also work to report results to TAPS. So once you figure out who your timer is, if you will do us a favor and email us at info at taps.biz. Hey, I am running the District X track meet. It will be on such and such dates. Here's my timer, and here is their contact information. So that's going to be it for the district meets. Robert, can you tell us a little bit about the regional meets?
You bet. As we move from district to regional, we'll go ahead and jump in with 1A here. Remember 1A for the last few years, you've been going straight to regional. We'll have that format again this year. 1A will not have district meets because of the size of their districts and their schools and the geography. So you'll come straight to those regional meets. We'll have one in the north and one in the south, just like we've had the last several years, and we'll get you information out on that schedule. But those regional meets will be hosted by TAPS. We'll get you information out on the entries as well. We will have that webinar that Brian mentioned earlier, and we'll have all that information for you, how to do your district entries, and then how those district results will move on up into the regional meet for your regional meets.
Part of the entry call-up and the deadline for drops and call-ups is going to be very tight this year. April 17th is the look for the district certification, and we may be starting regionals on April 20th. So we're not going to have a great deal of time to reseed heats, et cetera. So if you come out of district and you feel like you have students that they may have qualified, but they are not going to compete at the regional meet, please make sure you notify the next one up as soon as possible and notify our office. And we'll go through all of that when we have that entry webinar. The regional meets right now, it says, I apologize, it says regional meets, the virtual coaches meeting. We will have a virtual coaches meeting the week prior to those meets, so we'll get you that date and time. April 20th through the 23rd is what it's looking like. Friday and Saturday are not looking good at this point. The last few years we've tried to go on Friday and Saturday. Those conflict with the UIL meets, so you can pretty well plan on the regional meets for track being Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we will get you the order of those meets as soon as we confirm the dates for each. The location in the north, we're working with 3 sites to determine which is the best site to host us for the DFW North region. The South region will be held at Memorial Stadium in Bastrop. We were there a couple of years ago. They were great hosts, and we'll be moving forward. Meet information will be updated on the TAPS website, and the qualifiers table, how many advanced from district to region and region to state, will also be updated soon on the track page. So what do the championships look like? Again, the deadline for call-ups and drops will be there. You're automatically entered from region to state, just like you are from district to region. You have to drop or call up if you're not going. The championship meet, we will have a virtual coaches meeting on the 28th. We will have implement drop-off and coaches pickup. In the last couple of years, we've done that we've done the coaches meeting at the Waco Convention Center. This year, we will be at Midway ISD Panther Stadium for that. So implement drop-off, coaches packet pickup, the virtual coaches meeting, mark all those down. As it stands right now, April the 30th, which is Friday, is the 3,200 meter run, and the field events followed by May 1st. They're running events, all 12 divisions running right one behind the other. So looking to return to our traditional format. As always, be prepared for a change. So we do want a normal meet schedule if possible. However, prepare for changes as needed, whether it be weather, COVID, our host school. Again, one thing that we're learning, as you may have learned, when you rent a facility somebody, their protocols also go into play. So were there to be a COVID outbreak, were there to be something else that comes up, we would obviously have to do what they ask us to do. So for right now, Panther Stadium, Midway ISD will be the host of the championship TAPS track and field. We've got a question and answer session. That's pretty well what we know right now. If you'll take a moment to look at question and answers, any questions that you have that we may not have answered at this point, please feel free to use the tab on the right-hand side and fill those in. If it's a question that you think is very specific to your classification or district, please email us at info@taps.biz or give us a call, 254-947-9268. It's a Salado phone number, but we're still here at the Texas Motor Speedway. We'll be here today, and then we're off to swim next week. So taps.biz, athletics, spring sports, track and field, that's going to be the home for your information. info@taps.biz. Drop us the emails as they come. Gentlemen, any questions that have arisen?
We have one here, Brian, that just came in. The question is, can you run as a team/school at a USA track and field type meet?
USA Track and Field is not an interscholastic meet, therefore they should not be wearing your colors while you're out there. That is one that they would be going in individually to run in. That would totally be up to you, but that's not going to be an interscholastic sanctioned event. I think in COVID right now, that is one of the situations that's getting stretched a little bit from what we would normally do. Can you run in them? Yes. Should they run as a team and wear your colors? The answer is no.
Don't have any other questions at this point.
Sounds like we're rocking and rolling. We look forward to the track and field season to come. Again, if you're hosting a track meet, if you need teams, email us info@taps.biz as we get closer to the official track districts, etc. Once we come out of spring break and get into April, please make sure you continue to contact us here at the TAPS office. If you already know that you're hosting a track and field district meet, then please email us at info@taps.biz. Get Kelly that information so she can get it up on the internet. We appreciate you joining us here today. John, tell them a little bit about our track social media and lead us on out of here.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you everybody in the office, and thank you folks for being here with us today. If your team has a social media presence on Twitter, we've got an account that's specifically for track and field. That's @TapsTrack. We're following a few of our schools. If you've got a team account or an athletic account or even a school account, if you know who's in charge of that, tell them to give us a follow. We always love to see what our schools are up to and to retweet as many things as possible. That's also where you're going to see awards, news, and updates and information for your fans as we approach the regional and state meets. With that, folks, again, if you think of a question later, please let us know, info@taps.biz, or call us at the office. This recording will be made available later this afternoon. You'll get an email to the link to the address that you used to sign up for this webinar. And with that, you folks enjoy the rest of your day.